Welcome back. So I know as everybody, after they see the 4 pillars of wealth building, they're like, okay, cool. That is awesome. That's awesome. You win in 4 ways, but show me the numbers instead, Jimmy. So that's what this video is going to be, is breaking down the returns of a piece of real estate through the lens of the 4 pillars and showing you guys how to use the pro forma. So what you see here on this pro forma is your basic $1,000 rent house. I'm going to keep the numbers very simple so you guys can see how it works. So when you join our program, we do send you a copy of the pro forma so you can analyze all the deals in your pro forma, but it's very simple. You get a deal. First thing you enter in is the estimated appraisal price and purchase price. There'll be a variance if they're Berkeys. If there's a turnkey, we sell it for the appraisal price. You put in the square footage, you put in the rent, other income for St. Louis houses. That means we collect sewer and then we pay the sewer for you. So it's a pass through. But you can, on this basic pro forma, I'm going to open up the pro forma in a second, but check it out. When you have 20% down, you're going to get a 21% return. Your cash flow is going to be at 8%. The tenant's going to pay the mortgage down, which is another close to 5% return. And you should be saving at least 3% on taxes a year. That's a cash on cash return. So one asset, year one, your worst year of investing, should give you close to a 37% return. And we see this, we've done over 800 of these. We see these over and over again. And when you do the creative deals, the rate of return skyrockets. Okay, so what I have on the screen right now, and with the link in the video, I'll attach a copy of this pro forma. So it's a basic pro forma, like I said, of a $1,000 house. And generally we sell turnkeys at 110 to 115 times rent. So for this house, for example, here's all you would fill in. $1,000 rent times 110 times 115 for this example. Higher value houses, it might go up to as far as 120. So the appraisal value is 110. Purchase price is 110. Next number you need to fill in is, hey, what's the down payment? 20 or 25%? What's the interest rate? For this example, I put 5%. And what's the loan term? 30 years. Everything in gray, the pro forma puts out on its own. Everything in yellow is numbers that you can enter in. So leasing fee, if you're doing a deal with us, is $1,000. Generally, our closing costs are $2,500. Occasionally, this should be yellow too. Point buy down, $2,200. So here's what's interesting. I'm going to give you 2 cash flow numbers. The first cash flow number is without putting a vacancy or maintenance reserve. We tell everybody down here, hey, put 10% of your rent aside for maintenance and vacancy. And over time, we've seen by doing case studies, that's about the right number. And so what you're going to see here is your net cash flow, or let's just add it up. So $1,000 rent minus property taxes. You'll also enter in your property taxes, minus your sewer, minus your insurance. Then you also enter in the property management fee. For this example, it's going to be 8%. That's going to lead to your known monthly expenses of $336. Next, we put in your estimated monthly expenses. That's the 10% set aside. Total estimated expenses is $108. So your net operating income is going to be $1,075, and the sewer down here is a pass-through. These are St. Louis deals. Is $1,075 minus your known expenses, minus your set aside. And so that's your total net operating income before your amortization for your loan. So before the principal and interest. So after principal and interest, you're going to be left with $159. Now that's not crazy exciting, but remember, it's an example. It's a $100,000 house. So you're into this deal for 20 grand. So you got a 7% cash on cash return for a $20,000 investment. Not bad. And this pro forma, this part of the pro forma, kind of boring. This is just year one, and you should never buy an asset based off year one. Now, cash on cash return maximum, if you don't have maintenance, if you don't have vacancy, is 267. So 267 is what's going to hit your bank account. But like I said before, remember, $100 every month, that's probably going to get chewed up by maintenance or vacancy. Now, the part of the pro forma that's actually interesting is this part of the pro forma. Like, never buy an asset. I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. Never buy an asset based on its year one return. What I look at for when I'm buying an asset, I'm looking at what is my 4-pillar return. That's what we talked about in the previous video. So it's, hey, what's my cash flow? It's going to be 8.6 the first year, and plus principal pay down, plus tax savings, my 20% appreciation, because remember, leverage amplifies returns. There's that 37% return I was talking about earlier. Now, I'm not too huge on details, but I like to see consistent returns. You look at year 2, house keeps appreciating. Cash flow grows $500 year 2. Cash flow grows another $400 year 3. And so as you see, you keep going along, And year 10, you're going to be looking at almost $7,000 in cash flow, another $8,000 in appreciation. So once your cash flows in year 10 is up to 25%, you're still getting the tax savings, the tenant's still paying the mortgage down, and the house is still appreciating 5% a year. And I got plenty of data. We got another video saying, hey, is that a reasonable expectation? So year 10, you're looking at like a 70, 73% return. The interesting is your combined 4-pillar return. This house in 10 years, and this is on the low end, this will be a C-class property, is going to be $44,000. The tenant's going to pay the mortgage down $16,000. You're going to save $13,000 in taxes, and you're going to make a 70% return in appreciation. So that's a 144% return. And you're going to see a cumulative over 500% return. And you might be saying, hey, Jimmy, show me the numbers where that has happened. So people who bought houses from us 2018, 2019, we have case study videos. I have case study videos on YouTube where this is Ross Ayert, Derek Shannon house. This is the returns they got in 5 years. So leverage amplifies return. When you only have to put 20% down and the house appreciates at least 5% a year, there's some serious returns. So I'm going to get into it later in this lesson, but you got to remember, cash flow is simply a permission slip, especially in the beginning. I know everybody invests. I want cash flow now. It just doesn't work that way. So if you want cash flow now, you got to build your own personal cash machine through flipping or wholesaling. Let me take you through an actual real life example. This is a house we sold in 2023. Same thing. So year 1 returns, the rent was $1,200. The appraisal value of the house was $132. So this is a C-class asset. Year 1 was $223 a month in cash flow, and a maximum cash flow was $351. They still had the 10% set aside for $128. We had a 5% interest rate on this one. Their monthly payment on the loan was $567. So this is a green light, a 6 to 8% cash on cash return for cash flow for year 1. Hey, that's the permission slip. Now look at what this asset is doing in year 2. Year 1, house easily appreciated 5%. Year 2, we're looking at a 42% return that year because with the rent raise, cash flow per year went up $500. Another 5% got paid down by the tenant, another 3% tax savings, and a 22% cash on cash return from appreciation. So that's a 42% cumulative return. That's why these are the best assets out there. You cannot get a better return cash on cash than these assets. So that's a quick case study. I kind of sped through that because I just did a deep dive in a basic $100,000 house. But as you see deals, you'll be seeing these type of pro formas. And so why single family rentals? Because as the last 2 videos been stressing, you win in 4 ways. One of my favorite lines from Anchorman, 60% of the time, it works every time. But with single family rentals, using 30-year fixed mortgages, it does work every time because the magic is this. Real estate appreciates 5% a year. You only have 20% down. So I'm going to do this in the leverage video, but that is a 25% return for year over year. And quite frankly, I'm going to do this in the leverage video, but I think it's your patriotic duty. It's the only subsidies you're going to get as a middle-class American to get 20 of these loans. Just a reiteration on the 4 ways to win: appreciation, cash flow, the tax advantages, and the leverage. And so why does everybody invest on Wall Street? It's because it's easy. It's simple. You hit a button. We've made it as passive as possible, but you got to educate yourself. You got to watch these videos. But the problem is, the reason it's easy is because you can only win in one way. And single family rentals, they're just a precautionary tale. Now, raising the rent, you don't want to be hammering the tenants year over year. We say a 3 to 5%. Even if the market's going up at 7, we still say, hey, stay to 3 to 5% because keep that good tenant in there and let the rent keep rising. But for example, in 2023, rents were up 8%, and we had owners saying, should we raise it 8? No, do the standard 5% return. You're still keeping up with inflation. And like I said, showed you earlier on the pro forma, the cash on cash is simply increasing over time. So you just take your year 1 as a permission slip. I'm going to get to that a little bit later and look at that 10-year return. And like I brought up earlier, the magic of leverage. I don't know if you can see these with the small print on the slide, but 5% a year, as the price keeps increasing, your return keeps going up. 21% year 1, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, 29, 30%. And I've seen it with my own rentals. That 5% return, and I'm beating a dead horse here, but the fact that you only have 20% down to 25% return. And then the magic of cash flow, the way cash flow really works is your cost of capital stays the same. Your principal and interest stays the same, but you keep raising the rent every year. And so now we're going to talk about how to use a pro forma. So here's how an amateur, and I did this in the beginning of my investing stage. This is how I used to look at pro formas when I didn't know what I was doing. But I expected the pro forma to predict the future for me, to be the magic 8 ball. But that's not what you use these for. So the way you use pro formas is you use it to measure it against a standard and decide to move. So some higher value houses, it might make sense if you want the appreciation and it's a great neighborhood to maybe spend the first couple of years negative cash flow. It depends on your own investing situation. If you don't need cash flow and you're just looking for taxes and you're looking to use leverage and you want the appreciation, maybe it makes sense to have a house at negative cash flows for the first couple of years. Me personally, I like to be 6 to 8% net cash flow positive, but that has kept me from doing some better houses and better deals. So the way you use a pro forma, it's just a simple standard to measure against. It simplifies anything because you'll have all these numbers, taxes, rent, insurance, and it allows you to standardize how you're going to analyze a deal. Now, I have another video in this course talking about your own buying criteria, but you need a tool like the pro forma to start your buying criteria. And then it also allows you to say, hey, what lever am I going to pull for what part of the market cycle we're in? And then never measure performance against the pro forma, because that's a resulting here. I got another video called resulting that we'll get into later. And remember, the secret to happiness is your happiness is the difference between your expectations and your reality. So if you expect the pro forma to be exactly correct all 10 years that you're owning the asset, you're going to be disappointed. The pro forma shows you what's mathematically possible. And I've seen people outperform their pro formas. I've seen people underperform their pro formas. The bottom line is this pro forma allows you to see, one, hey, I'm net cash flow positive, and make decisions and move fast. So what exactly is a pro forma? It's simply a tool to help you make a decision to move forward versus an expectation of performance. Does that make sense? So what I mean by that is, oh, it's cash flow positive. It's in the neighborhood class I want. That over the next 10 years, it looks like it's going to be a great asset. Cool. Now I know I can move forward. Whereas, hey, I'm white knuckling everything. I'm expecting every number in the pro forma to be exactly the same. That's not how you use these tools. So pro formas allow you to choose amongst many options with limited resources and limited time. It knows what deals you can knock out of the game. For example, $1,000 rent on a $200,000 house right away. It's nowhere near the 0.75% rule. It's nowhere near going to be a great asset. I'm going to be cash flow negative for longer than I'm willing to tolerate. It also allows you to see where you're at in the market cycle. I have other videos to say, hey, which lever of the 4 pillars are you going to pull depending on the market cycle? And also, once you get good at this, you're allowed to decide what rules to break. And it allows you to know that you're going to win because you're investing in your buying criteria. It also shows you how to adapt as you get more deals, and then you adapt your pro forma and adapt your buying criteria. Like, for example, I used to be maximum cash flow. Now I'm a little longer in the game. I want maximum appreciation. And then finally, it allows you to act and move forward systematically and quickly. So what does your pro forma tell you? Like I said, it allows you to systemize your decision-making. It helps you choose among many options that you have with limited capital. It allows you to know what rules to break after you've done a few of these. That's why we generally start people out with turnkey so they can get used to reading the pro forma and the process. And it helps you avoid mistakes that are going to knock you out of the game by taking on assets that maybe are too over leveraged or that don't fit your buying criteria. So the pro forma is not going to tell you month by month an accurate prediction of how much money you're going to make. Shouldn't be used as a yardstick, and it doesn't do a good job picking or losers. It's very binary. It says either move forward or avoid. And no number in the future, it's ever going to be exactly accurate. So it'll get you in the neighborhood, but it's not the precise dollar amount that you can count on every month for the next 10 years. Like I said, I've seen people outperform the pro formas. I've seen them underperform the pro formas, but they've all been great assets. And it all helped them move forward. But like I said, I've beaten the dead horse. All these numbers will lie to you. Now let's get into the purpose cash flow. So new people in the game, this is where they struggle. They think cash flow, they add up enough cash flow, and then they can quit your job. Cash flow in the first 10 years is simply a permission slip to invest in the right asset. It's your North Star in your game plan because 10 years, that's where you want to be. It also allows you to have blinders on so you're not hoodwinked by shiny object syndrome, and it allows you to keep focused. And eventually, between a combination of strict cash flow and equity milling, it will be your exit. Why care about cash flow at all then? It allows you for staying power, because if you buy 10 houses and all of them are negative cash flow, you might be in a little bit of a hurt depending on how big your cash machine is or your active cash flow that you currently have. It allows you to start with the end in mind and allows you to participate in barbell investing, where you either win or win big. What do I mean by win big? Hey, maybe your asset appreciates more than 5% a year. Maybe your rents appreciate more than 5% a year, or maybe there's just slow and steady 4 to 5% a year. You're still winning. It's just the difference between winning and winning big. I do have another video on the course talking about anti-fragile and barbell investing. And so one of my favorite quotes from Ocean's 11 is the house always wins. If you're using 4 pillars as your investing criteria, you are the house. You will always win. And so then why focus on cash flow? Because you probably don't want to be feeding the meter every month. Me, my personal investments, I just don't want to feed the meter every month, but I don't expect to have huge cash flow numbers in the first 36 months of owning an asset. And then what you're looking for is simple, like Moneyball. All you want to do is get on base and hit singles. So simple success, hitting singles. So wake up one day and your wealth surprises us. You get rich despite yourself. That is the goal. So there you go. That is a video on how you fill out the pro forma. I hope I made it as simple as possible. And the copies you'll get, it will have the yellow. And I'm a simple man. I just wanted to be paint by numbers. And every deal we send you guys, we also attach a pro forma. But remember, a pro forma of recap allows you to choose among many options with your limited resources and limited time. It is an initial way to just knock deals out that don't fit your buying criteria. It then allows you to know where you're at in the market. Are you in year 1 or year 10? What is that asset going to do in the next 10 years? Allows you to decide what rules to break. Once you get good at this, it shows you how you're going to win. It also gives you options on how you're going to adapt. And then finally, it allows you to decide and act. That's the 2 most powerful thing it does for you. And so we will see you on the next video.